I wore a $3,000 dress that night. Classic black. Floor length. Tailored to perfection. I even had my hair done, soft curls, a touch of shimmer. And tucked in my purse was a $5,000 gift I knew my parents would love. But when I stepped into the grand ballroom, my name wasn't on the guest list. Not an accident. Not a mix-up. My father saw me, looked me straight in the eyes, and told security, "Get this woman out. She doesn't belong here." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I walked out in silence. But what I did after that, it changed everything, not just for them, but for me. If you've ever felt like the family wallet instead of the daughter, you might know a little about the quiet kind of heartbreak that builds slowly. Until one day, it roars. I'm Natalie Carter. And for the past 12 years, I've been the unofficial CFO of my entire family. The forgotten middle child. The one who never asked for much, but was always expected to give everything. This story isn't just about being excluded from a party I paid for. It's about waking up to years of manipulation and realizing that love without respect is just control with a prettier name. So I started doing the one thing I was never allowed to do. Say no. Stay with me. Because what happens next isn't revenge. It's something deeper. Something quieter. And maybe, something you need to hear, too. They used to call me the responsible one. Not the brilliant one. Not the beautiful one. Just, responsible. Caroline was always the star. Prom queen. Ivy League. The type of girl who could crash a car into a mailbox and still get comforted with, "Sweetheart, are you okay?" Jason, the youngest, got away with everything, failed classes, skipped jobs, even 2 DUI arrests before he turned 24. My parents always had a line for him, "He's still figuring things out." But me? I was the safe one. The fallback plan. The one who always paid her own bills and never needed anything, so, naturally, they assumed I had more to give. It started early. When Caroline wanted to switch majors in college for the third time and lost her scholarship, I took on a third job to help cover the gap, because Dad said money was tight that semester. When Jason's truck broke down his senior year, I co-signed the loan for a new one. I was 22. He was 19. He wrecked it 6 months later. Never paid a dime. No one asked me if I had enough. They just knew I'd find a way. And I did. I graduated top of my class in finance. Landed a junior position at a Boston-based wealth advisory firm that handled portfolios most people couldn't imagine. I worked 80-hour weeks, burned through caffeine and ambition. Climbed every step of the corporate ladder, until one day, I didn't need their help anymore. I bought my first apartment at 28. By 30, I was managing $50 million in client assets. By 33, I opened my own firm, Carter & West, and brought my assistant Chloe with me. And that's when the calls got more frequent. "Sweetie, Jason's startup needs a little boost. He just needs $15,000 to build out his prototype. Natalie, your father's retirement investments took a hit this quarter. We're behind on the house payment. Could you just float us for now? There's this retreat for Caroline, women's leadership at Lake Tahoe. It's $8,500, but it would mean so much to her." They always framed it like a favor. A once-in-a-while thing. But there was always another thing. And every time I hesitated, every time I even asked a question, I was guilt-tripped into silence. "You know you're the only one we can count on. You make more than all of us combined. Don't you want your brother to succeed?" And my personal favorite. "You're not like the others, Natalie. You actually know how to handle money." That line? That was the hook they used every time. And every time, I fell for it. Because deep down, I thought if I gave enough, I'd eventually be loved enough. Isn't that how it works? You show up. You pay up. You don't complain. And eventually, someone notices that you were always there? But no one ever noticed. They only noticed when I didn't show up. Or when I said, I need a break this month. They noticed just enough to make me feel guilty, and then disappeared again until the next financial emergency. Last Christmas, I got a text at 9 p.m. on Christmas Eve. We're doing the family dinner at Caroline's this year. Just casual. Hope you're well. No invite. No mention of time. Just an afterthought. I saw the photos on Facebook the next day, them in matching pajamas around the fire. Jason holding up a wine glass. Caroline's kids opening presents. My chair, the one I bought for Caroline's new dining room, empty. And I still sent them a $3,000 gift card for home repairs. Because Jason had casually mentioned their roof was leaking. When you're conditioned to give, silence feels like safety. Speaking up feels like betrayal. But there's a cost. And that cost started weighing heavier the moment they called about the anniversary party. Her voice was unusually cheerful. That should have been my first red flag. Natalie. Your father and I are celebrating our 45th anniversary next month. We're thinking of something elegant. Classy. Maybe Blue Harrow. I'd heard of the place. Private rooftop terrace. Michelin chef. $300 per plate kind of place. We'd love for you to be involved in planning, she added. It would mean so much to your father. Something in me softened. Maybe this time would be different. Maybe this was their way of saying, you matter. You're part of this. So I said yes. Wonderful, she replied breezily. They'll call you about the deposit. I didn't ask how much. I didn't negotiate. I just gave them my card. Later that night, I looked up the venue. The deposit alone was $20,000. Not including upgrades. I sat in silence, staring at the screen. Not because of the money, I could afford it. But because of how casually it had been assumed. No discussion. No gratitude. Just a line item in someone else's celebration, funded by me. And likely, forgotten by everyone else. Looking back now, I should have wondered why they never added me to the group thread about guest seating. Why I only heard details secondhand, mostly through Caroline. She had always acted like I was the outsider who didn't need to be included. And this time? She finalized the guest list. Maybe she assumed I wouldn't show. Or maybe, she just didn't want me there at all. Still, I showed up for the planning calls. Sent recommendations. Asked about guest lists and catering and decor. And every time I tried to engage, I was brushed off. Don't worry about it, Natalie. We've got it covered. We know you're busy. We'll send you the final details later. They never came. I should have known. I should have read between the lines. But I didn't. Because deep down, after all this time, I still believed that maybe this would be the moment they'd finally see me. Not as a resource. Not as a bank. But as a daughter. The evening of the party, Boston was drenched in late spring sun. The kind of day that almost makes you believe something good is coming. I arrived early, not by much, maybe 15 minutes. Enough time to feel the nerves fluttering in my stomach but still hold on to hope. I'd spent the afternoon preparing. Hair curled into soft waves, dress steamed to perfection, makeup done by a professional who told me I looked timeless. I even wore the sapphire necklace Grandma Eleanor left me. The only thing from my family that ever truly felt like love. The gift sat in a silver box on the passenger seat. 2 Cartier watches, one for each of them. Engraved. Thoughtful. Cost me $6,500. But the look I imagined on their faces when they opened it? That would be worth more than anything. At least, I thought it would be. The blue harrow stood tall against the sky, a mix of glass, old brick, and quiet intimidation. Valet took my keys with a nod. I stepped inside, heels tapping against polished marble. "Good evening," I said to the hostess. "I'm here for the Carter anniversary." She smiled, pulled up the guest list on her iPad. "Your name, please?" "Natalie Carter." Her smile faltered. She scrolled again. Then looked up with an expression I'd seen before, polite discomfort. "I'm sorry, Miss Carter. I don't see you listed." I laughed, just a breath. Surely, this was a mistake. "I'm their daughter. I paid for the deposit." She hesitated. "Let me get the event manager." I nodded, heartbeat picking up now. Through the double doors, I could hear music. Laughter. The faint clink of champagne glasses. Someone inside was giving a toast. I stood still, clutching the gift box, as a new woman in a black blazer approached. "Miss Carter," she said gently. "We do have record of your payment, yes. But, the guest list was finalized by Mr. and Mrs. Carter, and your name isn't included." My voice caught. There must be a mistake. They were very specific. She said. 60 guests. All names were double-checked this morning. "I'm their daughter," I repeated. "I'm not just some friend. I paid for this." She looked uncomfortable. "Would you like me to try to reach them?" "Yes. Please." As she stepped away, I caught sight of the inside. White roses. String lights. A customized sculpture shaped like the number 45. Jason and Caroline were both there, sipping champagne. Jason's new girlfriend laughed loudly. Caroline posed for a group photo with her kids. No one looked toward the door. No one looked for me. The doors opened again. But instead of the manager, it was my parents. My father looked sharp in his tux. My mother wore a silver floor-length gown, diamonds glinting under the lights. And their expressions? Annoyed. Bothered. Like I'd interrupted a photo shoot. "Natalie," my mother said tightly. "What are you doing here?" "What?" I blinked. "It's your anniversary. I paid for it." My father cut in. "Yes, and thank you for that. But this is a private celebration." "I'm your daughter," I whispered. "I'm part of this." "You're always working," my mother said flatly. "We didn't think you'd come. I bought you something." I held out the box. "We don't have time right now," she said. "You can send it later." And then, the moment I will never forget. My father turned to the nearby security guard and said, "Please escort this woman out. She's not on the list." The guard stepped forward. Clearly unsure. "Sir, are you sure?" "She's disturbing the event," my father said coldly. "Get this woman out." "No. Not this woman." His exact words were, "Get this leech out of here." Leech. Like I was a parasite. Like I hadn't been the one keeping them afloat for over a decade. The security guard took my elbow. "I'm sorry, ma'am." I didn't resist. I didn't say another word. I let him lead me out, past the people drinking champagne I paid for, beneath the lights I arranged, while the room buzzed with laughter that didn't include me. When the elevator doors closed, I finally breathed again. But it wasn't anger I felt. Not yet. It was something quieter. Like a mirror had finally been wiped clean, and I saw, maybe for the first time, who they really were. I didn't cry in the elevator. Not on the way down. Not as the security guard avoided my eyes. Not even when the valet handed me my keys with the kind of look you give someone who's just been broken up with in public. I held it together. Until I couldn't. I made it to the driver's seat. Put the Cartier box gently beside me. Then gripped the wheel with both hands, staring straight ahead. The lights of Boston blurred. The air inside the car felt too tight. And then, just like that, it cracked. The first sob hit like a punch. Ugly. Raw. The kind of sound that only comes from grief you didn't know you were still carrying. I cried until my chest ached. Until my voice was gone. Until the part of me that still wanted to believe it was a misunderstanding finally went quiet. I wasn't excluded by accident. I wasn't forgotten. They had planned it. They had counted on me paying, and staying away. Because in their eyes, I wasn't family. I was funding. Somewhere in the chaos of my breath, I reached for my phone. Not to call them. To call her. Jordan. My best friend since college. The only person who'd ever told me, flat out. Natalie, your family uses you. The phone rang once. Hey, Mac, how's the party? Did they finally treat you like royalty for once? I couldn't answer. I tried, opened my mouth, and nothing came out. Nat, she said again, concern rising. Are you okay? They kicked me out. I managed, voice cracking. Silence. Then, sharply, what? They had me removed. Security. In front of everyone. I'm coming over. Right now. Don't move. True to her word. Jordan was at my apartment 20 minutes later. I hadn't even made it out of the garage. She opened the passenger door, pushed aside the gift box, and pulled me into a hug so tight. I nearly collapsed. Tell me everything, she said. And I did. I told her about the hostess. The guest list. The look on my father's face. His words, leech. How my mother didn't even want to touch the gift. By the time I finished, Jordan was pacing. That's not family. That's financial abuse in a cocktail dress. They're my parents, I said weakly. My default line for years. No. They're your creditors who never plan to repay you. Upstairs, she helped me out of my dress. Wiped off the ruined makeup. Put on one of my oversized sweaters. Then poured 2 glasses of wine and pulled out Thai food from my favorite place, which, of course, she had ordered without asking. You know the worst part? I said quietly. I have records of everything. Every transfer. Every check. Every bill I covered. Jordan's eyebrows lifted. Seriously? I'm a financial advisor. I track everything. It's literally what I do. I just, never added it all up. She handed me my laptop. Then tonight, we do. I logged in. Opened the folder labeled Family Support. Started scrolling. And the numbers? They weren't kind. $15. 000 for Jason's failed app. $8,500 for Caroline's leadership retreat. $3,000 here. $7,200 there. Mortgage payments. Vacation deposits. Emergency vet bills for a dog I've never met. Jordan sat beside me, eyes wide as the total climbed. By the time I hit generate full report, the number stared back at me like a slap. Almost $390,000. A number I never meant to reach, but couldn't ignore anymore. Over 12 years. Not counting tonight's $20,000 deposit. Not counting interest. Not counting the emotional cost. That's a house. Jordan whispered. That's 3. I stared at the screen. Hands numb. Voice steady. They never even said thank you. She nodded. They never will. Somewhere between the silence and the truth. Something inside me shifted. Not anger. Not yet. Just clarity. I'm canceling everything, I said quietly. What do you mean? The cruise I booked for them. The vacation Caroline's planning with my Amex. The new loan Jason's waiting on. It ends now. You're serious? I looked at her, something solid in my voice I hadn't felt in years. For the first time, yes. The next morning, I woke up with clarity, the kind that comes after a storm. There was no back and forth in my head. No what if I'm overreacting? No guilt-ridden justifications. It was quiet inside me. Like I had finally stopped trying. I made coffee, tied my hair back, opened my laptop, and started what Jordan called Operation Shutdown. First up, the cruise. I had booked it months ago, a luxury 7-day Alaskan getaway for my parents. Suite with ocean view. Full excursions. Premium everything. It had been my anniversary gift, back when I still thought gifts could fix people. I called the cruise line. I need to cancel a reservation, I said, giving the confirmation number. There is a 20% cancellation fee, the rep informed me. Not a problem. Just refund the rest to the original payment method. Would you like us to notify the guests? No, I said. I'll take care of that. Click. Next, the Disney vacation for Caroline's kids. She had never asked me directly, of course not. She just forwarded me the reservation link and said, "So excited for the kids to see Cinderella Castle in person." Translation, you'll pay, right? I cancelled that too. Lost a few hundred in fees. Worth every cent. Then Jason's business loan. Technically, the funds hadn't been touched yet, they were sitting in a new business account I'd opened in both our names. I called the bank. I'd like to freeze all transactions. Effective immediately. Since I was the primary account holder, it took 2 clicks. Done. Country club renewal? Gone. Auto payments for their emergency pet insurance? Disabled. I even blocked their access to my Amazon Prime account. Because, yes, they had been ordering kitchen supplies and charging it to my card. By noon, I had cancelled or reversed $62,000 worth of pending financial commitments. It felt surreal. Like slowly backing out of a prison you didn't realize had no bars, only obligation. Chloe came by that afternoon. I told her everything. She listened without judgment. Then did what she always does best, organized the chaos. We made a spreadsheet, a master document of everything I had paid for over the years. Column A, date. Column B, description. Column C, amount. Column D, recipient. Column E, category. Column F, repayment? Y/N. The N column stretched for pages. Then she helped me calculate the opportunity cost, what I could have earned had that money been invested in my standard portfolio. Answer? $141,000. We totaled everything. $389 for 17.62 in cash. $141,000 in missed gains. Equals $530 for 17.62 ***. $500,000. Gone. And not a single thank you card to show for it. As Chloe stared at the number, she said, "You know, I think you just became your own best client." I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. Then we got to work on something even more important, boundaries. I wrote a short auto-reply for any incoming texts or emails from family. Natalie Carter is no longer providing financial assistance. All personal inquiries will be respectfully declined. It wasn't cruel. It was clear. And at 5 p.m., I activated it. The response from my family was instant. First came the calls. Mom. Dad. Caroline. Jason. Then the texts. Cruise line says it's cancelled. Fix it now. Why is Disney saying no reservation found? WTF is going on with my business account? Call me. Now. I didn't answer any of them. Not out of spite. But because for once, I didn't owe them an explanation. At 7:12 p.m., Caroline emailed me directly. Subject line: "You're being dramatic." Message: "Don't punish the kids just because you're feeling emotional. This is really unfair, Natalie. We're family." I stared at the word family for a long time. Funny how it only seems to mean something when they're not getting what they want. Funny how family only mattered when their plans got cancelled. At 9:45 p.m., Jason left me a voicemail. "You're going to regret this. You think you're better than us because you have money? Newsflash, that money came from us supporting you all those years." I didn't respond. But for a second, I almost laughed. The man who never held a job for more than 6 months, claiming he funded me. If delusion had a sound, it would have been that voicemail. But I added a new tab to the spreadsheet. Emotional debt. Not a dollar value. Just a record of every manipulative phrase ever used to keep me compliant. By midnight, I had 27 entries. And counting. It started with a knock. Then another. Louder. Then fists pounding the door like someone was trying to break it down. I glanced at the time. 7:03 a.m. A Sunday. I looked through the peephole and already knew what I'd find. There they were. My father, red-faced. My mother, clutching a designer tote that looked 3 seasons out of date. Caroline in pearls and passive aggression. Jason in joggers. Arms crossed like a teenager sent to detention. They looked like a protest outside a locked bank. Which, I guess, wasn't far from the truth. I opened the door. No greeting. No apology. Just my father's voice, sharp and loaded. "You're going to explain this. Right now." They barreled into the apartment uninvited. I didn't stop them. I didn't offer coffee. I just stood there, letting the silence fill the room until they couldn't take it anymore. "You canceled the cruise," my mother said, voice cracking. "Do you have any idea how humiliating that is? We already announced it to our friends." "The Disney trip's gone," Caroline snapped. "Jack and Emma were looking forward to it for months. Do you know how disappointed they are?" "My account's frozen," Jason spat. "You screwed up my launch. I had vendors lined up." Then came the chorus. "How could you do this? What were you thinking? You're acting unstable. This isn't like you." I didn't flinch. I walked to the kitchen counter, picked up a printed copy of the spreadsheet Chloe and I had finalized, and placed it gently on the table. "Let's talk numbers," I said quietly. They paused, just long enough for me to begin. "In the last 12 years," I said, flipping through the pages, "I've given this family $389,417.62. Their eyes widened. "That's not including lost investment returns, which adds up to another $141,000. Jason scoffed. "That's exaggerated." "No, it's itemized," I replied. "By date, category, recipient. You're welcome to audit it." I handed a page to each of them. They skimmed, faces tightening. Mortgage payments. Tuition bailouts. Business ventures. Luxury vacations. Medical emergencies. Country club renewals. Pet insurance. Plane tickets. Appliances. Spa packages. Bail. Caroline looked up. "You kept track of all of this?" "I'm a financial advisor." "Of course I did. But we're your family," my mother said, tears forming. "You don't track love." I leaned in, eyes steady. "You're right. You don't track love. But this isn't love. This is debt with emotional interest." Jason stepped forward, voice rising. "You always thought you were better than us. Just admit it. You wanted control." "No," I said, calm and even. I wanted belonging. I thought if I gave enough, I'd finally be seen. But it turns out, you were only looking at my bank account. My father finally spoke. You will fix this. We took care of you for years. You owe us. I walked to my phone, opened the voice recording app, and played the clip. His voice echoed through the room. Get this leech out of here. Silence. Context, he muttered. I was angry. I looked him in the eye. I believed you. My mother stood stiff beside the fireplace, arms crossed. This is why no one stays, she said flatly. You turn everything into a transaction. I nodded. I'd rather be alone than bought. Caroline dropped her paper. This is pathetic. You know what's pathetic? I said, walking to the door. Showing up only when the money disappears. Jason opened his mouth, probably to threaten me again. I beat him to it. This ends now. No more money. No more guilt trips. No more access. If you ever need financial help again, hire someone. I'm not your consultant. I'm not your ATM. I'm not your doormat. My father pointed a finger. If you close this door right now, you're cutting ties with your family forever. I smiled gently. No. I'm finally giving myself the family I never had, me. And then I opened the door wide. Goodbye. They filed out. Slow and furious. My mother was the last to leave. She looked back one final time. What will people think, Natalie? That you abandoned your parents? I met her gaze. Maybe. Or maybe, they'll ask what kind of parents let their daughter pay the price for everyone else's life. Click. The door shut with the softest sound, but it echoed like thunder. The apartment felt quiet. Not the kind of silence that weighs on you, but the kind that feels earned. Like the calm after a storm that didn't destroy you, only revealed what needed to go. That night, I lit a candle. Poured a glass of wine. Sat on my balcony overlooking the Boston skyline. And for the first time in over a decade, I didn't feel like I owed anyone anything. No repayment. No apology. No explanation. The flood of texts and calls eventually slowed. My family, realizing I meant it, tried different tactics. Guilt. Threats. Then silence. Jason posted some passive-aggressive nonsense on Facebook. Some people forget where they came from. Caroline sent one last email. Just so you know, Mom took you out of the will. Hope you're happy. And I was. Not because of spite. But because it was over. No more justifying my choices. No more funding people who treated my presence as optional, and my money as mandatory. I started therapy. Dr. Monroe was sharp, kind, and completely unimpressed by my I'm fine mask. In our first session, I told her what happened at the party. She nodded once and said, that wasn't just rejection. That was systemic emotional conditioning. What you experienced has a name, financial abuse. I stared at her. She said it like it was fact, not accusation. Like I wasn't crazy for feeling crushed. Like my heartbreak was real. And valid. Week by week, I unpacked the guilt I didn't even know I carried. I started setting boundaries at work too. Stopped answering calls after 6 p.m. Stopped over-delivering for clients who didn't value my time. Chloe noticed. You're different, she said one day, smiling. Stronger. Less broke, I replied, laughing. I also reconnected with my grandmother, in spirit. I reread her old letters. Found a postcard she once sent me that said, be nobody's safety net until they've built you a bridge. She knew. She always knew. I used part of the money I would have spent on my family to launch a small foundation in her name. The Eleanor Trust, offering emergency financial support for women leaving toxic family dynamics. It wasn't huge. But it mattered. Every dollar felt like a reclamation. In November, I hosted my first real Thanksgiving. Jordan came, of course. So did Chloe, her husband, and their new baby. Two of my clients who'd become friends. My neighbor upstairs who always brought extra pie. And surprisingly, my cousin Rachel. Rachel hadn't spoken to me in years. Not since our parents turned every gathering into a status Olympics. She showed up with homemade stuffing and tears in her eyes. "I saw the photos," she whispered. "I saw what they did to you." I wanted to say something that night, but I was scared. I hugged her anyway. Because sometimes, silence comes from survival, not malice. We ate. We laughed. We passed dishes and stories and nobody asked me for anything but salt. And for dessert, I served something I hadn't tasted in years, peace. That night, I wrote in my journal, a habit Dr. Monroe encouraged. I wrote, "I used to believe that if I gave enough, they'd finally see me. But it turns out, the more you give to people who only take, the more invisible you become." I paused. Then added, "I'd rather be seen by a few who truly care, than applauded by a crowd who only claps when you're useful." In December, a letter arrived. It was from my father. Short. Formal. "We regret how things unfolded. Your mother and I would like to meet. No expectations. Just coffee." I showed it to Dr. Monroe. She said, "You don't have to say yes. But if you do, go as the woman you've become, not the girl they once controlled." So I met them. At a neutral cafe. Middle of the day. No money on the table. They were quieter. Older. My mother wore less makeup. My father's voice didn't carry the same weight it once did. They said they missed me. I asked, "Do you miss me, or do you miss what I provided?" They had no answer. I paid for my own coffee. Left before they could ask for anything more. On the way home, I passed a family taking photos in the snow. A little girl spun in her dress and shouted, "Look at me. Mommy. Look at me." I smiled. Because that used to be me. Desperate for someone to see her. And now? I see her. Every day. If you've ever been the strong one, the giver, the invisible backbone of your family, know this. Your value isn't tied to your wallet. Your worth isn't measured by what you provide. You don't have to buy your way into love. And walking away isn't selfish, it's survival. If this story resonated with you, drop a comment below. You're not alone. And if you found your own version of peace, tell us what it looks like. We're listening.